In this video, we'll talk about effective customer service. Specifically, we'll be focusing on professionalism, passenger rights, and effective communication. Professionalism will ensure bigger tips and repeat business. Embracing professionalism means you act like your service is a profession, and you always continue to improve your level of service. You always give respect to your customers, including being aware of their emotional and physical boundaries, as well as their civil rights, and that you strive to improve the quality of service to all of your customers. The vast majority of the drivers that I've interacted with over the years take their job very seriously because of the nature of their independent contractor status. Many have developed their businesses over many years and have cultivated repeat business and a loyal customer base. They understand that treating their profession as a legitimate business increases customer satisfaction, which tends to lead to better tips. Make sure your vehicle complies to Monterey County Regional Taxi Authority's Taxi Administration Program regulations. It's incredibly important to maintain all RTA permitting requirements for both the driver and the vehicle permits. Ensure you can produce upon request the following documents: a valid California vehicle registration, valid proof of insurance, a valid California driver's license, a taxi vehicle permit, and a taxi driver permit. There may be instances when law enforcement asks to see various pieces of documentation to ensure you're able to provide service to the public. So keep all of these important documents in a location that's easily accessible. Professionalism, preparing. Make sure you are well rested and take care of personal business before or after work. Keeping your personal life separate from work life will allow you to focus better on your customers and their needs. It's very easy to be concerned about personal issues while on the job, and it takes a lot of discipline to separate your personal life from your professional life. But your customers likely have their own issues, so it's important to not burden your passengers with your own problems or issues. This does not mean that you can't make conversation with customers, but you should always maintain healthy boundaries. Maintain a professional appearance. It's extremely important to wear attire that's appropriate for your profession. It's not necessary to dress up, but it is important to maintain a professional appearance, not only because it helps to legitimize the industry in the eyes of customers, but it will help to generate more business and better tips. It's also important to maintain a clean vehicle. Vehicle maintenance is extremely important for yours and others' safety. Having a clean and well-maintained vehicle will also improve business. For example, small dents or tears in the upholstery will influence the customer's impression of your service quality, which can impact your tips and repeat business. A vehicle that is clean and clutter-free will be more comfortable for your customer. Obey all traffic laws. No reckless driving, such as tailgating, speeding, unsafe maneuvers, and no use of mind-altering drugs or medications. With respect to tailgating, the importance of keeping a safe distance from the car in front of you is important for two reasons. Firstly, you're more likely to rear-end the car in front of you if you follow too closely. And secondly, some of the passengers may be veterans who served active duty, and tailgating can be a trigger for some veterans who have had the experience of traveling in caravans of military vehicles that followed each other very closely, which is just something to be aware of and keep in mind. In terms of service delivery, it's really important to know your service area, such as points of interest, restaurants, transit hubs, hotels. Make accuracy a priority and always use the fastest and shortest route. The shorter the trip, the bigger the tip. You have no incentive to take a longer route because by doing so, you'll actually be eating into the fare for the trip. And finally, do not discriminate against passengers based on federally protected statuses such as race, gender, age, disability, etc. I would encourage all drivers to get a business card. I think it's an effective way to generate future business and get your name out there. And but just keep in mind that all taxi voucher trips have to go through your dispatch. So you can't book trips just directly with the customer. So just wanted to mention that. And finally, being professional will ensure bigger tips and repeat business. I did want to mention as well that there's a service observation program that we run. We recruit both taxi voucher and rides customers to participate in our programs to provide feedback about their overall experience. So you may actually be providing service to a service observer whose task it is to provide that feedback. Since you won't know when this is happening, it's best to provide a high level of service to every passenger you transport. All right, so now we're going to talk about 19. Passenger Rights, the Americans with Disabilities Act. The Americans with Disabilities Act guarantees that people with disabilities will have equal access to goods and services offered to the public. This includes transportation service, such as taxi cab rides. The ADA is a federal law that has wide-reaching implications for transportation providers, such as the taxi industry. Taxi voucher trips are not considered an ADA trip, so if a customer does not have a valid taxi voucher and they do not have any other way to pay, you can refuse service. For the rides program, however, if you are dispatched to pick up a customer, you must make a strong attempt to locate the customer. If you refuse them service, you're violating their civil rights and can be personally liable for any damages arising from a claim. In the U.S., 1 in 5 people have a disability, and much of the disabled population do not travel using a personal vehicle. And the reason why that is oftentimes their disability prevents them from being able to drive or use a vehicle. And for many, it's just really out of the price range. Accessible vehicles are very expensive, and not many people can afford them. Reaching out to this population can increase your clientele, and serving disabled customers is the right thing to do, and it is always good for business. Effective communication. It is good customer service. Some disabilities may impact a passenger's ability to communicate, but this does not mean that they do not know what they want to express. It may be helpful to keep a pad of paper and a pen on hand so that you may communicate with people who are unable to speak. There are also various translation apps that may help you with communicating with passengers who speak another language. Do your best to communicate with customers clearly. Be mindful that persons with disabilities want to be treated the same as any other customer, but they may have special needs that require additional assistance in order to provide the equivalent level of service as someone without a disability. Be patient. Make strong eye contact and engage with their needs, just as you would for a person without a disability. Listen, repeat, and wait for clarification in case there is anything you misunderstood. Your customers will appreciate your patience and empathy. This concludes this section on customer service. Please move on to the video titled MST Taxi Voucher Program.